In the trade war, China's loss is not necessarily America's gain, nor is America immune from the pain of tariffs, even though President Trump wants his supporters to believe both. Two recent announcements undermine his argument. On Monday, Beijing claimed economic growth of 6.2% during the second quarter of this year, a figure that most countries can only dream of. For China, though, this marked the smallest quarterly growth rate in 27 years. Meanwhile, the U.S. government announced that tariffs have so far raised only $20 billion in revenues, short of even the $28 billion President Trump promised American farmers to offset their tariff-related losses. Is President Trump misleading people, even intentionally? Is America winning or losing the trade war? Joining me for the discussion in Beijing is Jiang Gong, a professor of economics at the University of International Business and Economics, and from Taipei, Ross Feingold, a senior advisor for the DC International Advisory. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. A little bit of background in China's announcement on Monday. The National Bureau of Statistics figures show that despite the dip to 6.2%, China's GDP growth is still 6.3% for the first half of this year, despite, quote, slower global economic growth and increasing uncertainties and instability. And this figure, the spokesperson said, is still quite a good performance, especially when you compare it with that of other major economies, and you'll find it better than most of them. In fact, China said it could have resorted to massive stimulus packages for higher economic growth, but instead of doing that, China is committed to high-quality growth, economic restructuring, and industrial transformation and upgrading. So, Professor Gong, how do you interpret this bit of Chinese economic number and interpretation? Is it bad news? Is it good news? Is it mixed news?
I think it's both bad news and good news. The bad news is, let's first talk about bad. The bad news is that we have to admit that the economy is slowing down due to the macro conditions both in China as well as internationally, in addition to the fact that we're engaged in this trade war. And the good news is that 6.3% growth is still very decent growth. I think the spokesman is absolutely right that very few countries can achieve that kind of growth. I know only Bangladesh and India are a little bit higher than China's, but overall, China is way higher growth than the United States, almost doubles the United States growth, and absolutely doubling almost all the European economies. So I think this kind of a number speaks for itself. China is contributing to 30% of global growth. So that's the good news.
And the background, you have to remember the background, right? We are according to a lot of experts, we are at the edge of another financial crisis or economic crisis. John?
I'm not sure about the financial crisis, but we know that the world economy is slowing down, and due to very much partly due to the trade policy from Washington. And globally, we're facing a lot of challenges and problems. And in China, we're not immune to that, being the second largest economy, and also being a very open economy. We are big exporter, largest exporter in the world. Of course, our exports going to slow down somewhat, especially with the United States. That means that there will be losses in revenues and jobs. These things are not surprising. And I also want to point out that China's economy has been growing nearly close to 10% up to 2014. Ever since 2014, even though during good times our growth rate has been steadily coming down. There's a reason for that, because there is a limit in the sky that we can't keep going like this forever. Yeah. So as we grow larger and larger, it's getting more and more difficult to maintain the same speed of growth, and eventually we'll be converging to a developed country, a developed market economy, where 2%, 3% is very decent growth.
Absolutely. So but the problem is, our normal healthy trajectory will be interpreted as the trophy of somebody else's trade war. Let me go to Ross there. Do you think China's economic dip is first of all the result of U.S.'s trade or weaponized policies against China, and secondly, will China's dip benefit the U.S. economy?
Well, certainly the loss of some export orders to customers in the United States is detrimental to manufacturers in China, whether they're